Hi, good morning. This is Marie Gibson, and I just wanted to share a little snipping bit about creating a new file in QuickBooks Desktop. Sometimes people will come to me and they'll say, we just want to start fresh and new as of January 1. And of course, we're getting ready to do that now. And so they'll say, what's the easiest way to take my vendors with me, take my customers with me, perhaps even take your chart of accounts with you? And there are instructions online. However, I go about it a little bit differently, and I wanted to share that with you. And so my first step is, if I was in my own file, I would be creating a vendor contact list. That's under reports, and then here's the vendor contact list. And when you have a vendor contact list up and running, you can customize this to include all kinds of columns. So whether you want their first name, their last name, their work phone number, a mobile number, what information that you have in your old file that you want to carry into the new file are things that you might want to think about. And so when you have this report for vendors, and you'd create a very similar report for your customers that you want to carry forward. And again, that's reports, customers, customer contact list. And when you have the customer contact list, you'd bring that up. There's a little window. And again, all of these choices would be separate columns in this report. Once you have these reports created, I would then create new Excel worksheets. I would create 2 of them. And so we're going to export that one, and we're going to take a minute. It'll take just a second I have a second monitor. And then we'll email this and send this report also as an Excel, or sorry, I wanted to create a new worksheet there. So now I have 2 Excel worksheets, right? And so when I'm looking at that, I can go through, and I may not want to bring every single one of these customers into my new file, right? So now's the time to clean it up. Now's the time to kind of look at it and see if it's correct. If you don't, it's not a big deal. But again, I always think that if we have it cleaner, smoother, easier, quicker, better done, that just benefits everybody overall. So here's your customer list, and you would file and save that. And I save some things on my desktop when I'm in the middle of transitional periods, right? So this would be my customer list. And I'd give it a date so that I recognized it. And sometimes the macros won't, then you'll get a message about the macros not working. We really don't care. We really just want a nice, clean customer list. And again, a nice, clean vendor list. Now, most people will, let me save this real quick, save as, and again, my desktop, and I'll just throw it in there as a vendor list. And those 2 files then are ready to be imported, okay? And so we're not going to use the import function though. That's what I wanted to share with you is when you create a new company, and I'm going to file, close this company, and let's say that we've just said, okay, let me create this new company, right? So you can create a new company. And when you're creating a new company, it'll ask you several questions. And again, my screens are, I have some really great screens. So you can create one based on the existing one. What that does is give you the same chart of accounts, but doesn't really bring forward your customers and vendors like you would expect. Okay, you can also do a detailed start, or you can convert from Quicken. But if we were in this case, and let's say that you're the admin and you start a setup, and then what will happen is it'll ask for your sign in to your Intuit account. You can sign in later. And so in this case, I'm going to say, oh, let's kick it down. We'll remind you to sign in, because this is not a file I'm going to keep. But we could certainly say, here's the information I need. Transportation company. Let's see if I had a transportation trucking company, business type. And again, these specificities can be changed when you're in there. But the software is asking you to set this up in advance. It's no longer easy to just set up an empty QuickBooks file, right? So when we get the new file, and it'll take a few minutes, it's creating a new file. I can drag that over and show it to you if you'd like. I have 2 monitors. It didn't take very long. Okay, so when I have my brand new file, and this is my test company right here, it tells me at the top, that test company, I don't particularly like a big chunk of my monitor, my viewing screen taken up with the navy blue that's on the side anymore. That's a new feature. It's not my favorite. So I will actually just change that to the top icon bar on all my files. I happen to like it tiny and small. And then I also like working with view open windows list. So I might have multiple windows open at the same time. So in this case, my first choice is I want to go look at that chart of accounts and see what they created just as the default for transportation. Now's the time to clean it up. You're like, yeah, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. And of course, you know that if you want to just delete these, you can actually just right click and delete. If you've not used an account, right click and delete works great. Now this is pretty generic. There is a way for you to bring in your own chart of accounts. I'll talk about that in a minute. But what we want to do is when we come to the customer center, there's nobody here. And when we come to the vendor center, there's nobody here. What I like to do, the online conversation suggests that you use utilities and you can export your lists to IIF files and import them from IIF files. I actually prefer to do it a little bit different. That's what I wanted to show you. So we add or edit multiple lists. I have customers, or I have vendors, or here's your service items or non-inventory parts. But if I was to bring in my customers, what I'd like to make sure that happens is that this list, I'm going to bring this over here. Come on, little guy. There we go. I'm going to make that a little smaller. But the idea is that my customer list has exactly the same column headings as my Excel spreadsheet. So I would want to make sure that I have customer, the bill to, the fax, the primary contact, and I want them in identical order across the top here. In order to change that, you use customized columns. Customized columns brings up this window that allows you to say, well, I don't really use that. I don't really use that. I don't have any folks on phones anymore. Copy, CC, email, maybe, maybe not. Is there a bill to? Is there not a bill to? The one that we want to do is make sure that we add the opening balance, right? A customer balance. If we're bringing those into a new file and we have some existing AR and existing AP. And so when we now have this identical, you heard me say identical, to my spreadsheet, all my headers match up completely, I'm going to just basically copy, and I'm going to come in here and paste. Oops, and it'll say, yep. Come on. It'll give you a little video if you'd like to, but I didn't quite get that right there, and paste. And then the number of columns pasted exceeds the maximum number of columns allowed. Only 12 of my columns will be pasted. So again, those spreadsheets have to match what's coming into QuickBooks identical. And if we say, okay, then what's happened is any of these red items need to be dealt with. So some colons need to be on a separate list. There needs to be some issues. We're like, oh, okay. And then as you look across, you can see that my, thank you for the warning message. You can see that my balance didn't get in the right column, right? So it belonged over here. So if that happens and you're like, oh, shoot, I missed a column, or I got them one off, or oh, I didn't understand exactly, like, oh, Maria, I didn't understand exactly, then you just close this And when you close it, it says you have unsaved customers. Do you want to save them? No, I want to scratch it and start again. And again, that's lists, add, edit, multiple items, customers, same way, customize those columns. You might have to work with a little bit, right? But you want to get those just spot on so that literally what you're going to do is take that Excel spreadsheet, copy, select the whole thing, copy and paste it right into QuickBooks. It is a fabulous, fabulous tool. And then once you have that done, you would do the same thing for your customer center. And again, that's lists, add, edit, multiple list items for the customers. And you'd customize the columns to be exactly what you'd want for those customers. And again, if you have a customer balance for your vendors or your customers, you'd want to bring that in. And then you just copy and paste. It's the slickest tool. Okay, so I've had more luck with this process than I have with the exporting IIF files and the importing IIF files, simply because I don't like the difficulty in editing IIF files. Okay, so I like to encourage people to take that spreadsheet out, take a serious look at it, maybe have somebody else take a serious look at it. Make sure that you really do want to bring those people in. Now, of course, if you get somebody in here and they're a customer and you're like, oh, they're not really a customer anymore, right click and delete, right? So anyway, I just wanted to give you this quick tip on how to set up a brand new QuickBooks desktop file without any information. And of course, you'd need to set up your bank account. So if you're in your chart of accounts and we're shooting for January 1, you're going to, I just use the Control N. Those of you who don't know that the control keys, see the Control A is for your chart of accounts, Control R is for register, Control W is for write checks. And I just hit Control N for new while I was in the chart of accounts. And to help you remember, you can see, let's see if we come down here, see these Control New, Control Edit, Control Delete, Use, and Print. So if I'm here and I add a new account and I add a new banking account, right? And then you give it the name, checking account, blah, 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 and we bring that in. If you had any other trial balance items, you could journal those in as well in a trial balance. So thanks so much for listening. Hope this was helpful, and we'll talk to you soon.